Hello, I am Rebecca Spaulding from Utah, and I'm. I wanted to tell how I got into this message, how I came to learn about David Koresh and the Branch Davidians. It was. I was expecting my seventh baby at the time, and I would listen to the news feeds every day, and so as everybody in the world was aware of this event, I just listened to what the media told us and believed that this was a crazy guy, leader of a cult in Waco, Texas. And so that's what I bought into. But about a year later, I went home to visit my family, my parents. My brother was living with them at the time. He'd been divorced. And we were watching a little news blurb on the TV about the Branch Davidians, and they said, they're talking about David Koresh, and I piped up and said, "Wasn't that a wicked, evil man?" And my brother, he got all emotional, and he said, "Becky, you need to find out who he was." And I said, "Well, who was he?" And he didn't want to tell me what he thought. He got up and walked back and forth, and he said, "You just need to find out who he was." And I said, "Well, tell me if you know something." So he proceeded to tell me about a dream that he had had. He said, "In this dream, I dreamed that David Koresh had come to me, and I took him around to my family members to introduce him to my family. And as each one of them opened the door and saw him standing there, they slammed the door in his face. And he says, when we came to your house, you opened the door and you invited him in, and you had a meal prepared for him, and you had a bed for him to stay there. And he put his arms around you and gave you a kiss, and he heard the scripture, 'Kiss the Son lest he be angry and you perish in the way.' And then he woke up. And so he told me that dream, and I was like, well, what are you saying? I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me. And so for a couple of weeks I let it simmer in the back of my brain, and I finally decided I had to investigate and find out who these people were and what his message was, and why he would have this strange dream. If there was any meaning to it, I needed to find out what it was. So we watched, or my brother watched a talk show, and Sheila Martin was on there. She's one of the survivors. She gave her phone number for anyone to contact her if we wanted to speak to her. And so my brother contacted me and asked me if I wanted to go with him to Waco to meet these people. So we contacted Sheila. We ended up coming out to Waco and meeting a handful of the survivors. We were very favorably impressed with these people, and we heard their side of the story. So they also had, I wanted to learn about what David's message was, and I found out that they had recordings that different people had recorded of his teachings. They told me that David said that he was not to be bought or sold, and that David had told them, after I die, there will be a few people that will come to you sincerely wanting to know what this message is, and you are to give them these tapes and information that you have. And so they gave me many, many cassette tapes that had been recorded. People had recorded of him giving his message in different places, and so I got to learn what things he was teaching. And it really opened up the Bible to me, and so I delved into the Bible myself, not wanting to be deceived, wanting to really study this out and to get to the bottom of what his message was. And I've come to the conclusion that he had a very important message for the world, that all of us, all of our religions had become polluted with, the Christian religion as a whole had become polluted with teachings. Just before Christ left, he warned the people that after he left, wolves would come in, grievous wolves would come in who would not feed the flock, but would feed themselves of the flock. And we have seen many events like that in our day taking place. And I come to realize that David's message was for the world and for all the denominations, and to realize the state that we're in, that we need to come back to our roots. I loved his teachings of honor the Sabbath, keep the feast days of Yahuwah, not the pagan holidays that our churches, our denominations had married themselves to these pagan holidays and made them fit with their Christian beliefs, and kind of merging the two together. And I really agreed with those teachings that he told us. So I feel very blessed to have come to learn these important truths, and it has changed my life.